Okay, so this is day 2 of Mishlei 1434, and I made a mistake yesterday in translation. I realized this. Oh, there we go. That's good. Thank you. All right, tzedakah. Oh, that feels so good. All right, tzedakah teromim goy. The chesed, for those on the audio, I'm talking about Mishlei primarily, but secondarily about the air conditioner. Tzedakah teromim goy, the chesed lumim chatas. Charity or righteousness lifts up a nation. Okay, v'chesed le'umim chatas. So I translated this yesterday as the kindness of people. It really is peoples. Okay, and for some reason in my mind, I knew that there was something in this word that like the structure is not what it seems, and it was the lamed. And somehow in my mind that became like I was thinking of the word laom because laom is singular, but lumim is plural. So yeah, I don't think it affected that much. Of peoples or regimes is sin. Okay, and we also had sin offering. Offering. And then there's another one, which we're going to see in the Meiri today, is punishment. Okay, sometimes chatas is used as punishment. I can't think of a pasuk offhand, but yeah. Okay, Sadigon translated as the righteousness, the charity or righteousness uplifts the nation that does it, but the shame of peoples is the sin. So chesed here is like chesed who, or in Aramaic, the Targum says chisuda, which is shame. Alter says righteousness raises a nation, but offense leads to lack among the peoples, okay, which is going on the theory that the Dalet is supposed to be erased. Okay, questions were, what is the subject of the pasuk? What is the decision-making scenario here? What are the definitions of all the words in the pasuk, especially tzedakah and chesed? Specifically, are tzedakah and chesed being used as specific actions, like it, I guess, let's say like, I don't want to say specific actions, as references to instances of actions, or is it categories of actions, or is it midos? How does tzedakah lift up a goy? Who is giving / doing the tzedakah? If chesed is kindness or something positive as opposed to shame, how is that a hate? If goy and laom are not synonyms, then what is the difference and why is each one used in each half? And then we forgot one question, which is because I made the mistake. Why is goy singular and leumim plural? Yeah. Now again, that's not an intrinsic question, but I feel like the question of why, tzaddik or Russia or chacham or fool is below, that's like not a question at all. Here, it could be, I feel like intuitively it could be more significant. I may or may not be getting that from Iri. What is the hava amina? Like in other words, why would we think that tzedakah does not lift up a nation, or that something else lifts up a nation, or that chesed lumim is not a chatas, but is something else? What is the consequence of chait here? What's the consequence of chait? Who cares? What is the relationship between the two halves? What Mishlei archetypes, if any, are involved in the pasuk? Who's the intended audience? Is it the nations or peoples? Is it the leaders? Is it the recipients of tzedakah? And the chesed from the nations or peoples? Okay, so ideas yesterday. We had Chaim, who said that tzedakah that is done within a nation, so between the people in the nation, will lift it up in the sense that everyone's getting their needs taken care of and people are being compassionate to others, et cetera. See Mishlei on tzedakah, all the benefits of tzedakah. But the sin which would preclude tzedakah is shame. So in other words, chesed leumim chatas, shame is the sin for nations that precludes the benefit in the first half. Meaning people are too ashamed of their situation of lack to be forthright with their needs, and this prevents resources from getting where they need to go, or it can affect the givers, that the givers of the tzedakah feel that it somehow, based on their feelings, that could provoke shame among the recipients. So there, the practical message would be that it's not enough to have tzedakah as an option of what people could do, but how you frame it, or what the cultural value around tzedakah is going to shape how much of the benefits of tzedakah actually come to fruition. Yeah, Isaac?
Isn't it using chatas for two different definitions as both shame and sin?
Well, chesed is the one that is shame.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. So could we think of a practical example of this, not in a national setting, where, here's a good one. Okay, so there are certain intellectual cultures in which asking questions or not knowing something is considered to be like an imperfection, And so therefore people are ashamed to ask. And therefore you end up in a situation where the people who are giving over the knowledge, there's a much larger gap between the people giving over the knowledge and the people receiving it. So that's bad for both parties because the recipients don't get more knowledge and the givers of the knowledge don't get to perfect their knowledge through the asking, but in a culture like ours where Ein Habayis Lo Made and where questions are considered to be like the way that we learn, then that promotes a more active flow of discourse, and that's better for everyone. So, if you look at that, the reason why I like this as highlighting the idea is like you could look at let's say a college lecture hall, and say, like, are questions and answers accepted here? The answer is yes, but based on the way that they value it, it's not. There's a shame attached to it, so that prevents the tzedakah from actually affecting things. Yeah, I'm just gonna write this as an example. Intellectual culture surrounding Q&A in learning. Okay.
I feel like you see that in like schools also, like kids.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's definitely a unfortunate reality of many schools. Okay, so then we had this huge cluster of ideas. I'm just going to read from the top of what I wrote. So Isaac said, or my notes of Isaac said, there is a certain capitalist mentality which sees tzedakah as a bad thing because it'll make people dependent on handouts and they won't positively contribute to society. That's the havmina that the first half is addressing. So you think that tzedakah lowers a goy, but really it uplifts it. Kamash Malan, it uplifts it. Yeah. Intuition for the second half. On the other hand, there is a way in which doing a nation doing tzedakah will be a chatas, and that's why it's being called chesed. Okay, so Isaiah chimed in and said the chait might be that if a nation has a policy of chesed in a certain area whereby they are lax about certain things. That's not a full sentence. This might be done out of a motive of chesed, but it will cause harm to the system. And that's when I had my idea, which is it's talking about institutionalized chesed, that chesed by nature has to be based on the individual needs and what is good to tweak in this situation versus another situation. So you have like tzedakah, which is going to be, that can be institutionalized. Okay, like, in terms of seeing like general needs, but to adjust for the individual, you can't have individual adjustments that are legislated across the board by definition, right? So it's going to end up throwing the system out of whack. And then Michael said, if we translate this as chesed tzedakah two nations, then the above ideas can apply when considering international aid. If you provide the needs of another nation, that will ultimately be good. But if you enact an institutionalized form of chesed, then you might create dependencies, which are ultimately bad for the nation and for the League of Nations. Yeah.
Just a question on the whole approach in general is why are we saying tis romain and chatas? Like obviously uplift makes sense.
Right.
Why are we calling it sin as opposed to like brings it down or like?
Yeah, so I want to say that is a good question. So what I'll say is I feel like we talked about this recently about the word hate, that the primary meaning is missing a mark or missing a target. People think the primary meaning is sin, but really missing the mark is the main meaning, and then from that it was derived sin. Okay, so I think like that's actually a good way to say it, is that if you try to do chesed in a societal way, it's going to miss the targets, and so it is interesting. I mean, the question still applies, but like why uplift and miss? But I think this is one of the cases where like you have to imply both halves in the opposite way. So tzedakah uplifts a nation and reaches the targets, but chesed l'umim lowers a nation because it misses the targets. Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of like when you're trying to pick up something that's unwieldy.
Yeah,
it's like let's say like a long thing and you lift, and because it's unbalanced, it just topples out.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's
interesting imagery. Yeah. Okay. So then we had Ariel's idea. Sorry, no, this is not Ariel's idea. This is right, but this was from the I mean, start off with that, but then we ended up after you left doing the Rambam, right?
No, I know.
Oh, you listened. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
right.
Totally in line.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is not your you had a second idea which I found vindication for today. Okay, or we started doing it yesterday. Your first idea, yeah. This is Ariel idea number 2. Okay, which we'll do Ariel idea number 1 today. Tzedakah, defined as providing for someone's needs, can never be wrong by definition. Chesed, which means excess, lends itself to being either good or detrimental. Sometimes you intend to do chesed, but it ends up being harmful. Okay, so, right, so that was an intuition there. Okay, so let's actually do the Ribbeinu Yona we read, and I want to do the Ri Nachmias, who takes the same approach, and I think gives us more to work with. Okay, so Rubino Yona said, we're not gonna do the footnote this time. It's tzedakah teromim goy, tzedakah teromim kol ha'uma. Tzedakah uplifts the entire nation. The af ki enam yodim lasos lishmah. Yeah.
Is it kol uma as in every nation?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, every nation. Yeah. Even when they don't know how to do it lishmah, rak lispar, they only do it to glorify themselves. Yatzlihu v'yashiru b'schar hatzedakah. They will succeed and become wealthy in reward for tzedakah. V'cheselumim chatas techaper al hashgagos kechatas. It will atone for unintentional sins like a chatas. Okay, so hold on to that thought because we didn't know what to make of that. Ri Nachmias, where does he start? On the side. Okay. Tzedakah teromim goy v'cheselumim chatas. Migizras pen yechasedecha shomea. Oh, chesed. Okay, so he takes chesed as shame. V'chein tirgam tzidkasa teromim uma v'chisuda da'ame chate. All right, so that's a shame. Okay. Uperak hashutfin, Rabbi Eliezer Omer tzedakah teromim goy elu Yisrael. Okay, so shenemar umi kam chaytral goy echad ba'aretz. Yeah, okay. Can anyone confirm to me? Someone once told me that the word goy in Chumash is never used for non-Jews.
It's just a sojourner. It's just
no, ger. You're thinking ger. I'm thinking goy. Yeah. That goy is only used in Chumash for Israel, which to me that's like a astonishing claim. But it's one of those claims that like maybe that's true. You know,
I thought it just was foreigner. As in,
no.
You're just like.
No, I don't think so.
Like goy l'kol davar, like the Rambam says, like.
Right, goy though
means you're.
I don't think it means foreigner. I think it means nation. I think it's like neutral. But someone told me that in Chumash it's only used for Klal Yisrael. I don't know if that's true. Right.
I'm not thinking of any disproofs to it.
I know. Yeah. I'm not going to do a search for it, but if anyone can confirm or disprove that, then let me know.
Remind me before Schneider next year.
Yeah. So, but the point though is that this is trying to explain why our pasuk that says goy singular is singular, which is that it's an allusion to Klal Yisrael. He says goy echad ba'aretz, which is definitely a reference to us. All right, v'cheselumim chatas, and the shame of nations is sin. Kol tzedakah v'chesed she'umos ha'olam osim chatas hi lahem. Every tzedakah and chesed that the nations do is a sin to them. So this is not exactly like Rubino Yona, because Rubino Yona says it's mechaper, but whatever. She'ein osim elel hizgadabo. They only do it to glorify themselves.
It's like the opposite.
Right, it's the same as Rubino Yona in the sense that it's talking about motives for nations doing tzedakah and chesed.
Yeah,
that's the same subject, even though it's a different idea. Yeah.
It's simply Rubino is saying it does uplift them, and he's like, no, it doesn't uplift them.
Right. Yeah, I meant to say it's not the same idea. I meant to say it's the same subject or same reading as Ariel wanted to do yesterday. Dilahon makarvin nichochim le'ilah shemaya umatzalin l'chayim malcha uvenohi. Okay, so that's in Sefer Ezra, which means that I don't know what it means, but they gave or they have gifts, favorable gifts to the God of heaven, and they save for the king and the sons. Okay, I got to read this in Ezra. I don't know my Ezra Aramaic as well as I hoped. Okay, Ezra 6:4. Oh no, they don't have the Targum Ivri. Oh, maybe they do it on a different entry. Yeah, no, that's Targum Shivim. I think it says David translates all of them. Just see them. Huh. All right, we'll just look at it in English. Now, therefore, wait, is this the right?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay, thank you. 6:10. That they may offer sacrifices of sweet favor to the God of heaven and pray for the life of the king and of his sons. Okay, I don't know how that's a raya. All right, I'll assume that I shouldn't care about it. Okay, so V'chein Amar Rabbi Yehoshua she'ein osim ela kadei shetimshach malchusam. So too, Rabbi Yehoshua says that they only do it to prolong their malchus. Shneimar lahon malka malkesh yishafer Allah v'chata'ich b'tzedakah prok v'avisach v'mechan aniyim hein tihavi archa l'shaluchsach. Okay, l'shalvasach. All right, let's look at that also in Daniel. This one I theoretically should be able to translate because I have taught this. 424. 424 says, they then cease the work of the house of God, which is at Yerushalayim. Wait, that can't be the pasuk. Broke. There's got to be a wrong citation. Hold on just a second. Prok ba'abisach. Prok ba'abisach. I don't know if this is important, but 424. Where did I go to? Oh, I'm still in Ezra. That's why. Okay. All right. Therefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable to you and break off your sins through righteousness and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. Perhaps there may be a lengthening of your tranquility. Right. So this was Nebuchadnezzar when he got a nevuah, Ruch Kodesh, I don't know, that said basically like if he was basically being too haughty, and if he does tzedakah, then that would prolong his kingship, and he didn't, and then that's when he was walking along, and then he said, "Is this not the great Babylon which I have built for a royal dwelling place by the might of my power and for the glory of my majesty?" And then boom, he gets turned to an animal, not actual animal, but he gets like a psychosis, and makes him go and eat grass in the forest for like 6 months or whatever, and then he's restored because he did tshuva, presumably. Yeah. All right. And Johnny walked there. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Where were we? Okay. So the point of that was saying that the way that the voice of heaven appealed to Nebuchadnezzar was saying, do tzedakah, and you're going to prolong your malchus. Okay. V'chein Rabban Gamliel she'ein osim elo lihisyahir bo. Amar Rabban Gamliel. So Rabban Gamliel also said, that was a funny slip because I just listened to an audiobook from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs that was criticizing Rabban Gamliel this morning. So I didn't mean to say that Rabban Gamliel said this, but so he said that the goyim only do tzedakah to out of yehirus, out of a haughtiness. Anyone who makes himself haughty falls into Gehenna. Shnemar Zayd Yahir late Shemo Ozev Zadan. A haughty, malicious haughty person, late is his name, he acts with the wrath of malice. Vein Evra Ella Gehenna. And Evra only means Gehenna. Shnemar Yom Evra Hahu Hayom Hahu. It's a day of wrath that day. Amar Gamliel, Adain Anu Tzrichim L'Modai. Ram Gamliel says we still need the statement of the Modai. Rabbi Elazar HaModai Omer Tzedakah Turim Goy Elu Yisrael V'Chesed L'Michatas Kol Tzedakah V'Chesed She'osim Umas Ha'olam V'Olam Hazeh Chatas Hu Lahem L'Olam Haba. This is really what he's getting to. That's interesting. L'Olam Haba. Any chesed that and tzedakah that the nations do in this world, it's a chait for them for Olam Haba. She'enu Osim Elo L'Charef Osanu Bo. They only say this in order to insult us through it. That's a strange statement. Shnemar v'yavo v'ya. What?
So they only say it. They only do it.
They only do it to insult us through it. Shnemar v'yavo or v'yave v'yas Hashem kasher diber ki chatasam l'Hashem v'lo shamatim b'kolo. Let's look at that in the context. 40. Yirmiyahu.
40:3.
40:3. Okay, so I'm just going to read this in English. The word came to Jeremiah from Hashem after Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had let him go forth from Ramah when he had taken him from being bound in chains among all the captives of Yerushalayim and Yehuda, who were carried away captive to Babel. The captain of the guard took Yirmiyahu and said to him, Hashem your God pronounced this evil on this place. And Hashem brought it and done according as he spoke, because you have sinned against Hashem and have not obeyed his voice. Therefore, this thing has come upon you. Okay, so the point is that you got a goy taunting a Jew for us not doing the Ratzon Hashem. I don't know if there's like some Chazal or something that says that this is about tzedakah. That would be weird. Okay, let's see what he says. That's all. Nechuni ben Kana Omer tzedakah teromim goy v'chesed liYisrael ulumim chatas. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. A lot of members here. I'm Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai the Talmidav roy ani divrei Nechuni ben Kana midivrei umidivreichem shunos in tzedakah v'chesed liYisrael ulumim chatas kidi isa hasam. He doesn't quote the whole thing. Okay. Ladas Rabbi Nechuni mishpat hakasev. Oh, he does. Tzedakah v'chesed teromim goy ulumim chatas v'goy elu Yisrael ulumim elu umas olam. V'kulam mefarshim chesed migizros v'chesed v'emes yichupar avon. Okay, so now he's switching back from what he said. All of them explain chesed to mean chesed and emes atone for sin. Uladas ha-pashtanim hu kitam penya chesed ha-shomea. But according to the pshat, it's shame. Kasher pirashti b'shekavar, like I already explained. Sorry, I didn't know this was going to be so long. Darshu kol hatamim halalu. Okay, let's stop and analyze this. Okay, so what's this idea of of all of the chesed and tzedakah that the nations do is lihis yaher and lihis gadol and lihis pyre. I know Ariel had his example of the Palestinians, but you were saying that about them. This is saying about all nations. So how can you make such a statement? You know, that's the whatever those are.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, Kleenex.
So
Finally.
I had a totally opposite idea. Well, the process was different. I'm not gonna take that up, but I was learning the Rabbeinu Yona to mean that there's a difference between an individual
Yeah.
versus a nation.
Uh-huh.
In a nation, if you're doing tzedakah and if you even if it's for hardness or for whatever, at the very least you'll see how the tzedakah will impact the society as a whole.
Right.
And that may change the way you relate to tzedakah.
Right. That does sound like a potential idea, but it is.
But that's what I think. I just don't know.
Yeah. Let's try to figure this out because I think this fits in better with the reading because I don't see it does seem like the pasuk is talking about either individuals in the nation or the nation, like every individual or nations to each other. It seems to be mass scale.
Well, the concept says lifts up a nation,
right?
For tzedakah and for chesed, peoples,
right.
Maybe
no, you could learn it. You could learn it without division. I just think it's mashma that it's going to be talking about the same actors in each case, and just in one case the actors it's tzedakah, the other case it's chesed. Doing chesed. Yeah, Chaim.
Again, the question is how can you make such a broad statement?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering, maybe you could say that without the direction of the Torah, doing actions that
right.
seem like they're good.
Yeah.
Can just if you don't have the grounding of why they're good or what's good about them.
Yeah.
Then you're just gonna end up kind of that's all it's gonna be have to okay, this is chesed, that's chesed, this is tzedakah, that's tzedakah.
Okay.
Again, like yesterday.
Yeah.
Giving people heroin if they're addicted to heroin is
right.
is chesed,
right.
And or tzedakah, and
right.
And then you get this whole skewed system
where
where it's just the din in the fact that they don't have the Torah.
Okay.
Them what tzedakah and chesed is.
Okay, so I like half of what you're saying, but not the other half. Okay. The half that I like is that if it's not grounded in knowledge, then it can't actually be true chesed. Okay, but what I want to know also is he's attributing a low lishmah motive. Well, I suppose what you're describing seems to just be the motive is lishmah, but they're just misguided and they won't be able to do it. Yeah, Ezra.
It kind of reminds me of the last pasuk.
Yeah.
Where Navon acquires knowledge. I think
let's
according to
I believe never needs to know
yeah. According to David.
Yeah.
He said that that the Navon's actually acquiring it for the sake of the chachma, whereas the Ksil does it to honor himself.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is a good connection to the last one. Right. Okay, good association. Yeah, no, good association though. Yeah, that would also explain why the Mefarshim are learning it here about lishmah and lo. Because in other words, there's two questions. One is is this idea true? The other is what makes them read the pasuk this way. And I wasn't even thinking about what makes them read the pasuk this way, but that's a good one. What was it?
Build on that.
Yeah.
So maybe when Bnei Israel, I'll just talk about the other nations. Well, the other nations, we talked about how we thought last week's pasuk that the chachma is kind of among the Ksilim and it's a thing that they might talk about.
Yeah.
But it's not really in them in the same sort of way. So I think maybe you could say a similar thing for the chesed.
Yeah.
It's not they're not doing acts of chesed, but it's not stemming from something that is intrinsic in them. It's it's tied to their their particular internal motives.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. I do think that's a good elaboration on also on what Chaim is saying. Okay. So let me hear what Chaim's going to say. This is starting to brew an approach in my mind.
I'll say very similar to Isaac.
Yeah.
Which is that I think because the only lishmah reasons are the reasons of the Torah.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going the first time. Yeah.
Right. So because that's true, any reason that they're going to have for doing it.
Yeah.
Is automatically going to be this low lishmah reason. It's not going to be
right
power or
okay. Yeah.
Or so that they look great. It's like celebrities when like they give a
Yeah.
lot of money or whatever.
Okay, yeah,
Or because they feel, it makes them feel.
Makes them
right.
feel
Okay,
good.
so
I
let
like all of
let
this
me
stuff.
just fill in the blanks here. So I think it's like this: is why do we do chesed and tzedakah?
It makes us feel
Why do
good.
we do it?
No, yeah. Why should we do it?
That's
God
not
does it.
consistent.
Oh, because God does it.
Yeah, because God does it. Okay, right? Is v'halachta b'drachav, right? Is there's this pasuk in Yirmiyahu. Ki im v'zosis halam yishala haskil v'yado osi k'aniya Hashem oseh chesed mishpat u'tzedakah b'aretz ki be'ela chafasti num Hashem, right? The pasuk, yeah, right, as that only in this may a person glorify himself, comprehending and knowing me, that I am Hashem, doing chesed, mishpat, and tzedakah in the land, because in these is my desire, says Hashem. So ultimately, that's what it means to do a lishmah, is that mahu rachum avtahi, mahu nikra rachum avtahi rachum, mahu nikra tzadik avtahi tzadik, you know, is because this is Ratzon Hashem. Okay, so this is what, so I think all other motives, I'm gonna not emphasize yisyah here and stuff. All other motives are self-serving in Olam Hazeh that nations do it. By default, it's going to be something in Olam Hazeh. And it might be like, it might, like, I was thinking to myself, what if Socrates got what he wanted? What if he got, made a utopia, made a republic, and he seems to be like, I don't know what his shita is on chesed and tzedakah. It seems like he would value it, I think he's a guy who likes justice, so what if he implements that? Was that? Yeah. Are you really going to say that is lihis pyre? So no, it's not lihis pyre, but it is self-serving for Olam Hazeh, because I don't think he has an idea of halachta b'drachav.
It's definitely not halachta b'drachav.
Yeah, exactly, right. So now the question. So now we can see how you can make a categorical statement. And again, and I think this is I can picture someone, a Jew, like cynically, like saying, all Jews give tzedakah for the right reasons, and all Jews give it for not. No, we're not saying that either. Jews can also give it for the wrong reasons. That's why we have this category of shelo lishmah that applies to all mitzvahs. But what it's saying is, like, in terms of the either this pasuk is expressing the ideal and saying that the there's a ceiling for non-Jews, that the ceiling is lo lishma reason, and for Jews it is al hashmayim. It's for lishma, or it's saying that, like, I don't know what it's saying, but it's expressing that difference. Now the question is, what's the Mishlei idea?
Like, why do we care about it?
Yeah, why do we care about it? Right. What's our self-serving reason for? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think maybe you can say that, like, look, you have to know who you're dealing with over here. I mean, like, like if you're
Okay, that's
dealing
good.
with the Jew,
Yeah.
then you don't need to worry about any ulterior motive, because, well, you may, but but it's more. I think maybe it's more to teach you about, like, dealing with non-Jews, like you have to assume there's always an ulterior motive with non-Jews, like, by default.
Okay.
It's possible that they may not, but by default, it's more for protection, really.
Right. Okay. So I think that's a good approach. So let me start this. So this is the derech, by the way, in Mishlei. Whenever you find a Tehillim idea in Mishlei, that, like, seems to be talking about something that Mishlei wouldn't talk about, about, like, relationship with God or whatever, so Mishlei, it's not that Mishlei doesn't get into those topics, but it's going to approach it in a Mishleic way. So here, there is this idea of doing chesed and tzedakah lishma. Okay, by the way, I think chesed and tzedakah are interchangeable here for our purposes, for this idea, but it's going to be approaching it in, okay, why does a Mishlei person care about it? Okay, so only Jews are capable of doing tzedakah v'chesed lishma, because only we have a value system of Yedias Hashem and v'halachta b'drachav and ki be'ele chafatzti, etc. Be'ele chafatzti.
Can I just push back on Chaim really quickly for a second?
Let me just get this down first. Okay. Whereas all other nations will, by definition, or not by definition, by default, have a self-serving olam hazeh motive in their tzedakah v'chesed. Therefore, so the question is, who cares? what does this have to do with Mishlei? So with Mishlei. So the answer is, when dealing with non-Jews on a national or individual level, no matter how they frame their tzedakah and chesed, you should always look for the self-serving olam hazeh motive, and be cautious accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to push back on that. I would say the opposite is true for a Jew. I think there is an idea of, down like and like by nature, but we have the Torah, and we do have like a, we should, by default view the Jewish society in non-self-serving way. Also, because there's a Gemara that, I mean, it's a separate, part, but the Gemara says, like, if a Jew thinks about a chait, like, he may not do it unless he does it like twice for it to be a part of it. But where a guy is like, just
right. I hear that idea.
I think that like there's a midah in
yeah, I definitely hear that. I still am more inclined to read the pasuk as talking about. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, Ezra, go ahead.
Pretty challenge to that one.
Yeah, and then fine.
With
Yeah.
Petard, you said that the
petard.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to.
He's calling you a petard. Yeah, no.
No, you said that that we should be done called Jew close, but the pasuk is called Adam close. So then when that
What's your question? Just spell it out.
heavy done as called Adam close means you should also
Mishnah.
You should also judge non-Jews.
Judge non-Jews. Yeah, but they don't have the Torah. You have to
That's
judge.
right,
You have to judge them appropriately with wherever they are.
Right.
By default.
That's a good response. Yeah.
We have the
No, I
Torah,
don't
and there's no
disagree with
reason
you.
to judge them the
I
other.
don't disagree with you.
Yeah. No, that's a good response.
Yeah, look,
That's a good response. Yeah.
I can take it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Any
That's good.
others?
Yeah. Fine.
We're good. I'm thinking.
But I think if we just go back to what we just said a couple minutes ago,
Yeah.
we have systems of lishmah for a reason, because we don't have that national inclination. It's true that that's what we're fostering
Yeah.
societally
Right.
and through the Torah, but we're just the same as non-Jews in the sense that we have national inclinations that go against.
Yeah.
I
So
guess that-
here's an interesting mashal, is that and maybe this is a way to use the Kavskus. So when you see an apple blossoming, you know that is part of the stage that is going to eventuate in an apple. Okay. But when you see I don't know, like a weed blossoming, you don't view that as it's going to eventuate in an apple, right? So both of them are initial stages. Sorry, both of them are botanically, it's the same thing. It's a blossom, but one of them, by its nature, has an ultimate end product, and now you could view this as a developmental step on that road. But for something that can't produce fruit, you can't view it that way, right? It's not being don l'kav to look at a plant that can't produce fruit and say, well, they're going to produce fruit, they're going to produce fruit. So like that's the same thing like with people. When you see a Jew doing a tzedakah shelo lishmah, and you see a non-Jew doing tzedakah shelo lishmah. The Jew, you can say, being down the kavsus on the Jew. See, I would say it's a slightly different take. Being down the kavsus on a Jew in that case is not saying he must be doing a lishmah, because that's just faking yourself out. But it's saying like this is something that is good because it's part of his development towards lishmah, and you're being down the kavsus and assuming that this is going to eventuate in lishmah.
All right.
Whereas with a non-Jew, that's just totally false. It won't eventuate in lishmah. Yeah.
I'll only make like one comment about the mashal, which is that like it seems to say that there's no potential within a non-Jew to produce fruit. Which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, like fundamentally, meaning they could. I would like the mashal that I was thinking would be, you have two apple trees and one of them has like proper light and water.
Okay, that's a better mashal, right?
So like they both have potential. One of them is just more geared toward that.
Yeah.
Toward, like,
So
actual,
right. So Avram Avinu was a great non-Jew who eventually in Tzedakah and Chesed arguably started the whole thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah. So I think that I like this idea, but I don't think the way that we're developing it really matches with like a practical, with the practical takeaway that we're talking about. Because if let's say you have someone who's doing let's say you have a Jewish person who's doing stuff because of for like actual lishmah reasons, and you have a non
For actual
lishmah,
okay, yeah.
and you have a non-Jew who's doing it for as a higher low lishmah reasons.
Okay.
In a practical sense, you like for like your practical like dealings with them, you'll have like a pretty similar way of dealing with them. Like, but I think it's more of a so that's my objection to it. So what we're saying in terms
Okay.
of
Do you want them to respond to your objection because their hand shot up when you said it?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I agree. Maybe in like one specific Misa, but insofar as like over time, like with the same person, right? Then I would disagree that there is a practical difference, right? If you go to a Jew who's working in the lishmah and you say, I need tzedakah, right? And then another person comes by, and the guy's really working and he's operating within the lishmah, he's gonna keep doing it. But if you have a non-Jew who's even doing it for a lishmah, like I feel generous today, right? Or I want to feel good about it, right? Practically, that's not gonna have the same effect because another person comes, at some point he's gonna be like, I can't do this anymore, you know?
Or the situation changes
right,
and like now the suddenly go sour or
it's a practical nafkamina whether or not somebody's doing lishmah or not, because again, like I mean, I agree at some point the Jew's gonna have to say, okay, I've exceeded my limit of what I can give for tzedakah, but then he's still working with
just to voice a similar or the same response is that this is Mishlei, right? So it's working in probability, and yes, it's possible that this non-Jew can be an Avram Avinu, but like that's just not something that we should assume. And I think this just this way of looking at things. Look, even if you look at a Jew doing tzedakah, even the fact that their tzedakah is part of the halachic system, and it's registering in their mind as they're doing Ratzon Hashem, that is a certain level that the non-Jew is not going to have, and like I think that does make a difference in terms of how you engage them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with all that.
Yeah.
I think I'll give my answer.
Yeah.
Which is I think by like I'd say the extremes of a person, like a person who's let's say operating, let's say the roughly the highest level that people could be operating.
Yeah.
I think in a practical sense you'd still deal with them pretty similar. Let's say someone who like really has worked on their mitos and like is actually doing stuff for let's say the best motives that they.
Yeah.
I think in a practical sense it would be relatively similar, but I think it's more about how to deal with people who are in the middle stages, because which is going to be most people,
right?
That some because a Jewish person is doing tzedakah within the framework of Torah and where it can be lishmah and and they have this whole structure around it, then you can, I'd say, more. It's more likely that the next thing that they do will be another type of will be another act of self.
Right.
Whereas if whereas a non-Jewish person, they might say like it's entirely based on what their emotions are telling them, and so even if they were generous this time,
right,
if next time it strikes them a little bit different, even though from a conceptual framework it actually is the same.
Yeah.
It's just they're just not going to necessarily do it.
I hear, yeah, makes sense. I was just gonna give a what did I say? What did you say when I said what are some examples? Current events, is that what you said? Yeah. So current events example. I again, I'm not a political. I'm not interested in politics, but like it just astonished me when a couple weeks ago when Biden like backpedaled on what the U.S. would give Israel, and Jews just reacted like with horror. So what do you think he was going to do? Like, he's a politician who's in his election year. Of course he's going to do what? Do you think he actually like loves Israel and is going to make decisions based on God, Ratzon Hashem? Like what like, and just watching Jews be horrified at like, it's just like, he's a politician. Like, don't forget that he's a politician. And like, this, I think this whole idea is best expressed in Chazal's what am I thinking of?
trusting.
Yeah.
Okay, it's part base, Mishlei base.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Havizahi,
Maybe Gimel. Yeah.
Yeah. Hevu Zahirin Barashus, be careful with the government. She'ain Makarvin Lil Adam Ella Litzorach Atman, they only bring a person close for their own needs. Nirin Ka'ovim B'Shas Hanasan, they seem like friends at a time that's to their benefit. The Ein Ondim Lil Adam B'Shas Dachko, but they don't stand by a person when in a time of his need. Right, that's like
it's gotta be the new slogan for all these like.
Yeah, right. It's just like it's pashut, but like people get seduced by nations that are favorably disposed towards Israel. You know, yeah.
So just to make sure I understand, according to this pasuk, how should we react to a Jew who's doing tzedakah? Should we not assume that they might have like ulterior motives?
So I think that's why I'm glad Ariel brought up his Don Lefapskus thing, which is that like I do think that let me put this in a different way. With non-Jews, you have a matir to be cynical because that's more in line with reality. But for a Jew, you might still engage them with suspicion of self-serving motives. Yeah, that's a good question. How should you treat it? Yeah, that's also true. Right? That's really a more
But I think there's a difference between cynicism and suspicion.
Yeah. Right.
Where like you can say like, okay, maybe like they are doing this but I'm going to like just pretend in my mind, even if it's in my mind, that like they are.
So let me give a more not pretendy approach, and I don't know if this is beyond what Mishlei is going to say, but like I think with a Jew, maybe I'm going to put on my Tehillim hat for a second. Okay, that you should view with a non-Jew giving tzedakah, you should view that through a psychological Mishlei framework. With a Jew giving tzedakah, you should view it through we are both participants in chesed mishpat tzedakah kibei lechafasti. Meaning, whether this guy right now is giving it for the right motives or not, like that you should think about in terms of practical decision making. But like we are participating in this thing that is uplifting the nation, even if he's doing it because of halacha and he's going to get reward in al haba. It is participating in this greater institution that is in line with the Darach Hashem and the Ratzon Hashem, and that changes things. The reason why I'm saying this to him is I don't know if it translates into a particular Mishlei thing. That's what I'm still questioning.
It feels like at this point we're so far away from what the pasuk actually says.
Wait, we're learning a pasuk? Yeah, tzedakah. Yeah, you want to say? Yeah.
I just want to say something about Don Lefapskus.
Okay, yeah. I'm not forgetting about your question. I just want to, yeah.
With being Don Lefapskus, there's a difference between like specifically trying to open your mind up to more favorable explanations of what's happening versus being naive. And I'll just like a halachic ramification is when let's say you're lending someone money, there's a halacha you're not supposed to you're really not supposed to lend someone money without aiding, because even though if he pays you back, totally fine. It's not like you like you would say, oh, why aren't you down the top close? Right. Pay you back. Right. Why do you need to lend with you? Yeah. And but it's because you're setting yourself up for a problem if you if you don't take a reasonable step. Yeah. Right.
Right. You have Mishlei, all these Mishlei pasukim that say don't co-sign for a stranger also. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that like it's funny, like I think Isaac's question from before is like, let's say you have like, you're dealing with a non-Jew who may have like good low lishmahs. The question is like fine, like what's the harm in that in interacting with them? Like at that moment, like what's the big deal? Right. Like it's not, if it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect you, right? But like but with the Jew, let's say it's the same low lishmah. Yeah. They're both equal in that sense. So the question is like what we're really I would say that like at least with the with the Jew, like even if he's doing low lishmah, like he'll still have in the back of his mind that like, like it's also for Hashem, it's also within this isn't done. Like so like it'll also affect his future decision making.
Right. Okay. All right. I was thinking along the same lines. So let me try answering Michael's question, and then we'll stop for today, which is that how is this Mishlei and what is the pasuk saying? So I think in line with Ezra's observation that the last pasuk was talking about motives of people for being involved in knowledge. So it said that the Navon is involved in Chachma lishmah, to put it in these terms, but the seal, even when it looks like he's talking about chachma, he's just doing it because he wants to look good, So with tzedakah, then because the tzedakah within Am Yisrael is fundamentally different, then engaging in the institution and like promoting your fellow Jews doing of tzedakah, even if it's not lishmah, is going to uplift the nation. Okay, meaning that like don't be dismissive of, don't be a purist when it comes to facilitating or giving or receiving or facilitating tzedakah within the Jewish nation. And like just reject lo lishmahs, because there is a reality between lo lishmah, ba lishmah by the Jewish people, and you engaging and enforcing that is going to uplift the nation in the very Mishlei sense of tzedakah uplifting the nation. Like let's like this is a bad example because like no one would actually do this, but like let's say a kid gives tzedakah because like he's gonna get schar olam haba. Don't shout at him, no, don't do that, like you're a Jew, you should do it lishma, like no, like you promote that because it's gonna be good, and that's like the mentality with which you should view that interaction. Whereas with a non-Jew, that's just faking yourself out, like like no, you should view it purely like the mission and Avos, Okay, so a lot more to think about. I just want to, we didn't have time, but the Meiri's Derech Nister is very interesting because he reads it in terms of yourself and your perfection, and tzedakah means moderation and middle path, and chesed means like the Rambam, like erring on one side to the other. So that's something to look at if you're interested. I'm going to stop this and say